please help me welcome Melissa Lanier. All right, thanks, Melissa.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, and thank you all. We really appreciate the opportunity to come and talk a little bit about some of the great things that we're doing at T-Mobile to reimagine our leadership development programs. But first, a little bit about T-Mobile. So some of you may know that about 5 years ago, T-Mobile became the Un-carrier. And you might be wondering, what's that all about? Well, for us, transforming our business was about really focusing on our customers and focusing on removing their pain points. And we've seen tremendous growth in the marketplace as a result. In fact, now we have over 72 million customers, and we're still growing. And T-Mobile has over 50,000 employees. So when you think about this, the pace and the growth that we've had to deal with, one of the things that we've really had to focus on is how do we keep our leadership pipeline full and moving. The other thing I'd like to mention is that we are an incredibly diverse organization. We're actually the most diverse company in wireless, and we have a tremendously diverse employee base that supports all of those customers. So when we think about what we need to do in terms of leadership development, we have to take into account the fabulous, diverse, fast-moving, multi-generational team that is out there servicing all of our customers. So when I started at T-Mobile about 2 years ago, we had a huge business need to continue to develop our high-potential leaders. And with all of our growth, we needed to hire about 100 directors annually. So my team was starting work on what was a traditional top talent development program. Some of you all may have been in these or seen them in organizations. They're great programs. Typically, they start with a cohort. People start at the same time. You go through competency-based learning, and at least in our case, we could put about 18 to 20 leaders through one of those programs a year. Now, when you start to think about 80 to 100 new directors, program that gives you 20 prepared high potential leaders, we had a big disconnect. And so as a team, we asked ourselves, what if T-Mobile didn't have a leadership development program? What if there was nothing? And we had to build it from the ground up. What would we do to create something that was really custom fit to our business and to our leaders? As part of answering that question, we knew that we had to break the mold of traditional leadership development. And then, plot twist, our senior leaders went forth into the organization with an email blast, always the best way, and we found out that they were making a broad commitment to internal mobility and the idea that 90% of all of our roles would be filled with a highly qualified internal candidate. Now, that was awesome, right? Who wouldn't want to work in leadership development in an organization that was so committed to developing internal leaders? It was fantastic. Also terrifying, right? Because our team was going to have to be the people to deliver on this commitment. And we wondered, what were we going to do? And so we put some ideas together. We created a program. We call it Magenta 9. And I'd love to introduce you to the program the same way that we introduce our high potential senior managers. So I'm going to play our launch video. So if you could please start the video.
Welcome to Magenta 9. You've been handpicked, hand-selected among the entire senior manager population to be involved in Magenta 9.
This is an opportunity for us to take the brilliance and the learning from people throughout our organization and bring it forward to our leadership team.
M9 is built on the experience of business leaders from both inside and outside T-Mobile and Metro PCS. Their insights give you the fast track on what it takes to be a great leader. M9 is made up of short, hyper-focused learning sprints. combining online and on-the-ground learning.
Magenta 9 is a cool program that has 9 paths that allow each one of you to select which one of the paths that work for you.
Each sprint focuses on a different leadership skill and exposes you to business leaders from across the company. Every M9 path is a month-long learning experience. Most of the lesson plan is virtual, with online bite-sized content.
This is a program that will give you the skills and the tools to help you build your leadership profile so that you can take broader responsibility at T-Mobile US.
Are you ready to become the kind of leader that continues the uncarrier revolution? Because there will be a next generation of uncarrier leaders. With M9, you can be one of them.
Hey everyone, have fun with Magenta 9. In fact, just don't have fun, have serious fun. We are the uncarrier. We won't stop, and we'll never ever stop investing in you.
So that's Magenta 9. And we also call it M9, as you heard in the video. So we could have done anything, right? We had a blank slate. At T-Mobile, we are privileged to work with an HR leadership team that is really open to new and innovative things. We often talk about next practices instead of best practices. And we work within a business ecosystem that is focused literally on the idea of hashtag we won't stop. So we had a lot of room in our sandbox to play. But the approach that we went with came from diving more deeply into how people learn, and then focusing on the end user with some design thinking techniques. So when we started down this path, we knew we wanted to move away from traditional leadership development. We have an enterprise competency model, and while it's valuable, it didn't give us the kind of results in terms of developing leaders that we thought some other approaches might be able to help us with. So we moved away from the enterprise competency model, and we moved towards developing capabilities based on what we might call more traditional learning objectives and program goals. And then we used a micro-learning and experiential learning approach. And this was all really based on learners' needs, with the idea that we also wanted to give learners some opportunity to define their own learning so that they could participate. So why micro-learning? Well, research suggests that our memories can only hold a limited amount of information at any one time. I've seen, 7 pieces. It varies by person. But the upside of this is we forget a lot, and we forget it quickly. And so microlearning really helps to build on things like spaced learning and repetition to allow participants to move things from their short-term memory to their long-term memory, where they can pull it up, when they need it, which is really what developing leaders is all about. So as our instructional designers were immersing themselves in brain science, we were also doing some experimentation with design thinking. We focused really heavily on user-centric design. I am personally very passionate about design thinking. I think it holds a lot of opportunity for human resources, and we were able to pull through some important threads into the development of this program. One of those was the idea of rapid prototyping. So the team created a fairly quick prototype. It was about 2 weeks of content, and we had 10 people in it. So we launched that. We went through the 2 weeks. We learned a lot. One of the things we learned is that wonderful, easy experience that you have in microlearning, where you think you're going to make a YouTube channel and people are going to click on things and they're going to learn. Yeah, that takes a lot of work on the back end to create such a great, seamless, casual user experience on the front end. There's a lot we learned, but that was probably one of the biggest ahas. So we pulled from that, and we said, okay, we're going to launch. We're going to create 3 of the 9 paths, and we're going to start with about 50 folks. So we did that. We had our first 3 up and running. We got lots of feedback from that. We learned a lot of lessons, and then we started to focus on scaling. So in today's world, we have 9 paths and a capstone, and we have 150 high potential senior managers in the program. So the final design of M9 relies pretty heavily on technology, but not exclusively. We have 9 learning paths or sprints, and they're focused on leadership competencies. The content is delivered primarily through digital learning assets with social learning and on-the-job practice activities. Every participant in M9 is treated as an individual. When they enter the program, they have an opportunity to take a light 360 with behavioral questions that map to the 9 paths. They get this feedback back, and then they sit down and have a conversation with their manager about the paths that they would like to take. So you don't have to take all 9, you can take just 1. Then their managers work with them as they move through the content to further customize through these on-the-job activities that we call try-its. Now, when we started out down this path, we did not have a social learning platform. We had Cornerstone as our LMS. And so we were really interested in Connect, the platform that Cornerstone provides that has cohorts, it has social learning, and we thought, well, this would be a great partnership to help us build out our vision. And so we implemented Connect in 2016, and it is the foundation of Magenta 9. So this is what M9 looks like to our participants, right? It's development that really in many ways balances screen time and face time. The screen is the portal to over 1,000 individual digital assets that the M9 team created across the 9 paths, a truly Herculean effort. There's also 4 in-person workshops because not all skills we recognize can be mastered in a digital environment. So we have things like presentation skills, influence and negotiation, vision. They're in a workshop format, and then we also offer a business simulation for business acumen. So, but primarily the learning experience of the 9 months is through Connect. So there's social learning in M9. Right, there's the opportunity to go online and talk to your peers. To date, we've had about 3,000 interactions, social interactions in the system. Participants also have an opportunity to like the assets, and we've collected about 20,000 likes across all the assets, and it's a wonderful endorsement to future learners. Every path has a flaunt it, where people get to show off what they've learned, and that's typically to our vice presidents, who are in fact their future hiring managers. So business impact. I started this by talking to you about the fact that we were trying to solve a business problem. Right, we launched the capstone path in May, so these numbers reflect a program that really has been in the development cycle, and we're already thrilled with the early results. We have an 88% completion rate for the digital assets in M9. 80% of managers are actively engaged with their managers, or their sponsors as we call them. 90% of the learners say that their learning experience, they've gained better mastery of the content that they've taken, and my favorite, 94% say that they've been able to apply what they've learned on the job. That's a huge key metric for us and our team. Currently, we're running at about a 25% promotion rate within M9. So what's next? When we started M9, it was a program like no other in our organization. We've seen enormous excitement and adoption as this program has become kind of the standard that people talk about across T-Mobile. There's such a high level of energy surrounding M9, and we get fabulous feedback back. You know, when I talk to participants, when I talk to their managers, when they complete their end of the month path feedback forms, it's so heartening for our entire team to read the feedback and know that we are having such a positive impact on the organization. Executive support is tremendous, and of course, this isn't going to surprise you, they would like to put more people into Magenta 9. Also, and I think maybe even more importantly, we are taking the lessons that we've learned and we're using them as we revamp, refresh, and expand our other enterprise learning approaches and programs. So my team is building a path from frontline all the way through VP, and the lessons that we've learned from M9 are informing the decisions that we're making on that program every day. So, our goal remains to meet the needs of the business with ready now leaders that can move into any business line when they're needed, ready to lead. And between the M9 team and our partnership with Cornerstone, we are really making that happen. Thank you.
So Melissa, you've just galvanized your organization. You spent a lot of time creating M9. What advice do you have for everyone here on how to do that in their organization?
Oh, well, so I've already confessed to you all that I have a real passion for design thinking and innovation. So my go-to advice is always, first and foremost, focus on your end user. Know and understand the human problems that you're trying to solve out there in your organization. It's honestly not that much different than designing a user experience, right? We're trying to design fabulous learning experiences that have deep impact on leaders. The other thing I would say is don't be afraid to experiment and iterate. When we started with M9, we had no idea what we were building, honestly. I mean, when we started with those 2 weeks of content, we took some ideas, put them out there, got input from our users, and we've iterated into something that I think has been really successful. But we wouldn't have gotten there if we tried to do it all at once.
Agree with that philosophy. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.